Right. Well, I guess we should start it off here. Obviously, today I'm speaking to you, TJ.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. From Munkin Games. That's right. Tell me, Munkin Games. Why? What inspired that name?
I wanted to, start off this video game independent development company with a name that would be a little fun
Yep.
and a little bit of a tease, and something that, being an American, I see all these new Chinese devices coming out
Yeah.
with these weird Chinese names like Pow Kitty and stuff like that. And I really wanted to kind of challenge the cheap China stuff coming out with a name that is similar, that kind of fits within their narrative, their kind of historical history. They have a lot of tales about monkeys and things, and I wanted to kind of say, like, you're not the only one that can come out with something that has a little bit of a fun character to it and can do something that's kind of unique and interesting. And that's where I came up with Monkey, because they have a tale called the Monkey King, and he goes out and it's kind of basically what your listeners would describe as a story, like kind of like Dragon Ball Z, if they've ever heard of that. It's very similar. So I just decided, hey, my Chinese sign is monkey, and Monkey King, and it just kind of fits, and I just wanted to challenge them. That's kind of why I picked the name.
I like it. That's a good name, actually, to be fair. Because, like you said, sometimes you hear the randomest of names, but that, because it's actually got a meaning behind it and some actual thought, then yeah, I like it. So obviously, we are here today to discuss Project Utopia.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, tell us a little bit about not a little bit. Tell us everything you can about it. Because everyone wants to know.
Back in 2016, 2015, as you know, some of the people who were working in a former company that I had,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what that company is, but
Yeah,
I guess
of course.
the smarter people out there can cover that if they want to. But I was one of the people working at this company, working on a prototype game console for a major company. During this time, one of the things I liked to do on my off time was to hook up a Google Chromecast to the TV, a little HDMI, little puck type device that you could hook up to the TV that would allow you to stream your videos to your television over your Android phone or from your browser from your computer.
Mhm.
And I had always wanted to play games that way, but it was always difficult to do it at that time. Back in that time, there wasn't a lot of game streaming services available. Today we have Xbox and Google and other services that stream, and of course Steam could do it, but Steam and Google didn't play nice. So I wanted to kind of have something similar to that, but I wanted to play games. So the thing I came up with, this little thing, is very similar to what the Chromecast is, but the difference is that it actually plays your games. It's just meant for playing games. It's not really meant for playing videos or anything like that. So it's not a pass-through like that would be. But the idea behind this device is that it would be a cheap device that anybody can get, like a Chromecast. Maybe not as quite as cheap as a Chromecast, but within that under $100, £100 range. And it would be something that you could hook up to your TV, easy to play. You could use something like Steam Link and stream from your in-home PC to your TV, and without any lag at all, and play it. And one of the other things I wanted to include with this was that a lot of modern kids are missing the experience of traditional consoles. They're missing the experience of even traditional microcomputers like Amiga or Spectrum or anything like that. They're missing the experience of putting in a cartridge and feeling that cartridge chunk into the system, and the solid link between that and the games you're playing, and the art sitting there in your room staring at you as you're playing this game. They're kind of missing this experience. So I said, in addition to the streaming stuff, I want to also add a real life component to it. So I decided to make it a cartridge style based system, with a unique twist on it though. So it's not going to be like a traditional cartridge, but it has a little twist on it. It's got a little bit of a magnetic feature to it, if you will.
I was gonna say, but obviously before you mentioned physical media, I was like, okay, cool. I love the idea of street because obviously there is a one of my videos coming up, funny enough, quite soon, which is talking about. Obviously, this is related to Sega. That what my video is explaining. If Sega were to come back to the console market, the sort of few ways or ideas I think they should follow. And funny enough, very parallel to what you're saying right now. Um, you know, but yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, Sega recently released their. It's not cloud gaming. I forgot what they called it. This is in addition to what they released for their arcade, very similar to what I was working on in the previous company, which was a way in which you could have basically a universal ID, which would allow you to log into your games, save all your data, and every time you go back to the arcade, you would kind of have this way to basically save your game data or save your profile data, and you could use it across multiple arcade machines, and you wouldn't have to worry about there being a problem. Now with this Sega arcade streaming service, you could do something very similar and carry that over to a new product like I was working on. But this product, Project Utopia, yeah, it's when I say streaming, I don't mean Google Play. I don't mean like Xbox streaming. I mean it more of a in-home streaming where you stream from your computer or some other device to this device, because I think that's a little bit more reliable. For instance, if you have a game that you bought and you own the game, you actually physically own the game, you can actually stream that to this device with not too much of a problem. And then there's the physical side of it, which what I just mentioned.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, are you gearing towards certain system? Is this going to be open to any system? Is it any system? Anything that can pass through that way?
As far as the streaming goes,
Yeah.
yeah, any system, doesn't matter, any Linux or Windows or Mac that can use a streaming service. It's got to go through the streaming service though. So something like Steam Link. Steam Link is probably the best example of what I'm aiming at with the streaming side, because all this device does is use it's going to have a 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi on it. So it'll be able to use that 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi to essentially have pretty much zero lag streaming to it from your computer off of any kind of Steam Link service. It has to exist on your computer. You have to have an account, and then you can find it within your Steam Link and just send it across. It doesn't have to be Steam Link. It can be, any of the other services, as long as they have a Steam Link style setup.
That's good. I mean, when so obviously we mentioned physical media, then
Right.
what physical media? And you're obviously saying cartridges. These cartridges? Where are they from? What are they going to contain? Because you're saying you want the physical media there as well as the streaming part of the console.
Right.
Which totally makes sense. But what are you going to have on these physical cartridges? Are these going to be new games from different developers? What are these going to contain? Are these going to contain indie titles that we see very much on things that go on the Switch nowadays? To be fair, even the PS4. The indie games are clearly taken over for a good reason.
Well, let's be honest. Indie games were never meant to take the place of companies that have been established in the gaming world for a very long time. But they have done a great job in kind of filling that space and getting up to spec, especially because a lot of the companies that develop these engines have made them very accessible to independent developers like me, startups and people like me who want to start making games and want to start seeing their visions come alive. These games are going to be open mostly to independent development, but we're not closed to developers and to uh, companies out there that have traditionally been on other consoles. So I have no problem taking something that was developed for PC, PS4, and Switch, the same system. I have no problem with that, but there will be exclusives, either from my company or from other companies. It just depends on who we can get on board with the system, and that comes down to making it attractive, not just for the consumer, the gamer, but also for the developers.
Are there? I mean, you don't have to answer this. Are there already exclusive games being made for this?
Not yet.
Not
This
yet.
is a new platform, so but the tools are available out there. The hardware is pretty much off the shelf with a few custom things added to it. And what that does, that allows for the developers to get up and running quickly on it without any problems of lead time in terms of having to learn the hardware. It's pretty much a known hardware. It's pretty much known tools. So I mean the impetus is there for them to make it, and it would be no more different than them making a mobile game.
Right.
You know?
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, in regards to when it comes to the actual console, the system itself, and you're talking about customization, is there going to be any sort of physical customization? Because obviously, users now or gamers nowadays, they love customization. So that can be the console itself. If it, I don't just mean colors. I mean, whatever. And the same with controllers. People love variants. Are there going to be variants or straight away, or is it, what we're going to see at sort of launch of this?
Well, here's the thing. The console comes in two parts. The first part is the base, and the base is what essentially what is going to allow you to plug it into the TV and plug in your cartridge to it. So that's the base.
Yep.
And then the games themselves plug into the base, and the games, the physical media, is where most of the customization from the developer comes from. So things like 3D relief on the cartridge. So you have
Yep.
characters kind of pop off the cartridge and kind of have this you know 3D kind of effect on there
Hmm.
through the plastic, and it's going to have different colors and different things. It's going to look really neat, hopefully at some point. The customization comes with the controller. Now the controller is going to be kind of a unique thing because it kind of combines a few technologies that are already in existence. The controller is where you're going to have the most ability to customize that, and the actual base that the system sits on. Now, the system itself, the base system itself, sits on another base, or basically a like a little stand. And that stand, you can put stickers on. You can even 3D print your own if you wanted to at some point, and customize that. Have your name on it at the bottom or something. But the controller is where it gets interesting. Outside of the console itself, the controller is um, the one of the basic functions of the controller is that it is a reconfigurable on the fly controller. Essentially, what it is you can take out any part of any of the control buttons and replace them and stick them in anywhere else on the controller. You can remove the buttons off, the four buttons off the side, and put it on the left side if you're right-handed, and put the analog stick over there, or if you want, you can put the D-pad up there, and two analog sticks at the bottom like a PlayStation controller, or you can have an Xbox setup. Or if, let's say, for instance, you don't really want to, you're playing a game that doesn't need two analog sticks, you only need one, where you can put a little cap on one of them and just have D-pad, four buttons, and an analog stick. So the customization there is pretty cool. But the other feature of this controller is that this is where you're going to have all of your game data to be saved. Everything that you're going to save your games, like all your memory cards, they're going to be micro SD cards. And a micro SD card slot, you'll just put in any size. Well, I'm looking at possibility of giving away a 64 gig, 32 or 64 gig micro SD card with the purchase of the console and the controller, which will come with the one controller will come with the console. But you'll get like a 64 gig SD card, micro SD card in there, and that's all you really need because you're just going to be saving game data in there, um, and that's where you're going to be doing it. So the only reason for you to touch the console itself is to plug it into the TV or to plug in the physical media. Other than that, there's no reason for you to go over there to touch the console. It's all in the controller.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, okay, that's quite interesting actually. I was gonna say you don't really hear of, well, you don't really hear of anything even trying to do that in that sort of style. I mean, I'm trying to think of anything similar to that. I don't
No,
don't think there is.
it all comes from my experience with Chinese handheld. A lot of Chinese handheld game consoles, like the RG350 or a few other ones like it, have built-in micro SD card slots in them. And I figure, you could basically do the same thing with the gamepad, with a controller, and there should be no problem with it. I mean, especially because the system itself uses a 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi signal and possibly Bluetooth on there. So there's going to be no reason for you to not use it wirelessly that way.
I mean, is there a sort of do you have a schedule in line? And when I mean, is it obviously you've got a plan? I mean, where's the plan going from here? Apart from obviously the planning stage of the actual system and what it can do, where do you move next?
Well, once I get a prototype ready, which will be pretty soon, barring monetary issues that could come up because of the recent bug. Outside of that,
Yeah.
um, as soon as I get a prototype ready and I can film it and shoot it and show off a little bit of what it can do, I will from that point start an Indiegogo and put it up on Indiegogo and let people see it and kind of style it, the Indiegogo, the same way that GPD has done theirs, and basically show everybody what it's about, tell them what we're looking at, and then kind of tell them what the price is, and hopefully the general price from the base price all the way up to what they feel like the value that they would want to get out of it, and go up a tier system that way, and have a couple of goals to meet and things like that. One of the goals that I'd like to get is I'd like to be able to offer to anyone who helps out with the Indiegogo that they get a free game.
Wow. Okay. Yep. Yeah.
And maybe a T-shirt.
Nice, man. Everyone loves a T-shirt. I was going to say, obviously you mentioned the price. 100. I was going to say £100, $100. That's actually quite a good price range because a lot of these, like you said, the handhelds that are coming out of Asia and China and everything like that are very much, especially the better ones, are around the sort of $70, $80 mark anyway. So the fact you're adding as much value as you're going to add for that sort of price range it's good. I mean, are you literally just going to be breaking even with this? Are you going to make any money on it?
Oh, even if I don't, at least I could use the Xbox model, the original Xbox, which is I'm probably not going to make any money on the hardware, but I might be able to recoup some back on the software side. But really, this is a work of love for those people out there who really, they don't have $400 or $500 or £600 to spend on an Xbox or a PlayStation or whatever, and they don't have the extra money now to purchase that high-speed bandwidth that PlayStation and Microsoft wants you to use for their consoles or their streaming services. You really don't have that much money, and that's another thing. The price of the games, the price of the physical media has got to be lower. It's got to be much lower. I mean, if you think about it, why are digital games $60, something like that, where they tell us it costs less to make the game and put it out than it would if it was to put it out in the physical media, and it's the same price. Well, what's the deal there? It's clearly something's wrong there.
Yeah. I mean, I think the problem with digital is they're trying to push people in that direction, like you were saying, just kind of so their profit margins can rise and rise and rise. I mean, they don't have to physically produce anything. They're literally just putting something on a server somewhere or a few servers somewhere so they can just download it and essentially take it away from you whenever they want. So
Yeah, I was going to mention that you don't actually own it.
no, exactly. And that's just the way so many things are going. Well, obviously, there's quite a resistance against it, as you can clearly see. Again, obviously when PlayStation 5 was announced, they have a discless version and a version that takes discs. So they're still trying to push people towards it, but kind of feeding the ones that still want that physical media. And it just feels like they're all trying to still gear it towards no physical media, and it just breaks my heart.
Question nobody's asking
Yeah.
is about these consoles is that what do you think they're going to do? Who do you think they're going to promote the most when new games come out, when exclusives come out, when things come out that they want you to buy? Who do you think they're going to pander to the most? The people who want physical or the people who don't?
Yeah, people who don't.
Right, because they want that model. That doesn't mean that when people say, oh, it's going this way, the only reason it's going that way is because people accept it. As long as you accept it, that it's going to go that way, and you think like how they want you to, like they tell you, oh, this is the future, you better do it this way, this is the future. Who says? You say? I mean, who are you to tell me that that's the future? I'm the person, I'm the one with the money you so, easily want to grab.
Yeah.
Who's to say that this is the future? And that's part of the motivation that I have for building a little system like this is basically to show everybody, look, you can have your streaming, but you can also do physical in a very interesting and cool, unique way that nobody is doing, and it can show you a different method, a different way of moving into a future of however you want it.
Yeah, I mean, do you think this is the reason that, for example, when we're talking the music industry, the reason the real music fans out there will still buy vinyl? Because vinyl, it means so much, like an album that they absolutely love, they want to own, they want to be able to play it whenever the hell they want, and have no one tell them how to do it. They just want to buy that. They want to own it. They want it in their hand.
Having that physical thing in your hand. We're human beings. We're animals. We're analog creatures. We're not digital creatures. We don't exist on a computer motherboard somewhere. So, we're drawn to physical things. We're everything in our society, the modern society that we live in, is telling us that, don't look at a woman, she's not pretty, that's sexist, or don't do this or that, that's not right. Don't buy a beautiful car because it doesn't have the right, ecological emissions out of it or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't take away people's fun because you don't like it.
Yep.
And that's pretty much, to come back to the gaming industry, that's kind of the way that it is. I honestly don't feel like the gaming industry needs to be as big as it is. I really don't. And then take a look at something like what happened with Doom, and their little Ring Zero PC spyware that they allowed you to put on there. Well, I'm calling it that. But it certainly opens up your computer to possibilities of hacking and problems and issues, and I think we've had enough of that with Intel and other companies having issues with their computer chips, having viruses and stuff that can get in there and get it at the hardware level. Why would you want a video game that does that? I think more and more as time goes on, people start to realize that all digital really isn't the way to go, especially during this particular time where we're all kind of locked down and kind of put in a situation where we have to realize what the difference is between digital and not digital, and you'll have a movie you love watching and you'll come back to it, say on Netflix the next night, and all of a sudden it's gone and you have no refund, you have no recourse to tell them that you want it back, and even if you do, Netflix is going to be like, look, the developer didn't want it on there, we took it off, sorry.
Yep.
And people are going to start going back to movie theaters, and as long as cinemas, I guess, and people they want video games. They want to be able to sit down. They want to be able to play them. I mean, I always ask this question: what are you going to do with your streaming Xbox or PlayStation when the power goes out?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Are you going to play? What are
Yeah,
you going to do? Where are you going to go? You're
yep.
not going to do anything because
No.
it doesn't exist. At least my system, you could hook up a battery bank, or you could hook up which this system does run on batteries. It has a lithium ion battery in it, which will allow you to recharge it.
How
You
many
could
how,
hook this.
how many hours are we getting out of that?
It's a 5,000 milliamp battery,
Okay.
so it depends on what game you're playing,
Of
how long you
course.
play it. But
Yep.
for the most part, I would say probably about a length of any Samsung or Apple. I'd say about
Okay.
5 hours
That's
at the most.
that's pretty good to be fair.
And if you hook it up to a TV that's hooked up to like a generator or
Yep.
something like that during a situation like a power outage or something, you'll still be able to play your games because you'll have your physical media with you and you'll be able to just pop in any game you want.
Yep.
So, and if you have your computer hooked up to it, let's say you have a laptop or a tablet that has a service on it, a lot of people don't realize that you can emulate games, computer games and things like that, from your PC or your mobile device across Steam. They don't know that you can actually use Steam to run those programs and essentially over Steam Link play them.
Yep.
And if you wanted to do that on this system, I mean, it's through Steam Link. There's nothing preventing you from using your Steam Link.
No.
So, well, there's that. So,
Okay. I mean, I've got one question for you here. If there's one franchise or game you want to see running on the system and running so damn beautifully, what would it be? Or what is it?
I do have I don't know if you've heard about this or not, but there is a new game development company coming out of Square Enix.
Okay.
Um, it is a it is a company that is developed by Yuji Naka,
Yep.
who works at Square Enix, or he works with Square Enix. And he and a team of developers, one of which who is working with but not under this new company,
Yep.
used to work on Sonic Team.
Oh man.
And this new group that is coming out of Square Enix, that is going to be working on these new games. They have a new game coming out, and this new game that they announced, um, well, I'm sure it might be a cross-platform game.
Yep.
Um, it's called Balan Wonderworld. Um,
What is that?
yeah,
Uh,
it's the company I believe is called Balan.
okay.
Balan Company, and it's under Square Enix, and the game is called Balan Wonderworld. And this game is very much like Nights into Dreams.
Okay.
It's
Yes.
got that feel. It's got that kind of really neat kind of dealing with problems and things like that. This is going to be a very good game. And this new franchise from a couple of members of the old Sonic team, would be something that we would very much like to see on our system.
Yep.
Especially as a launch game, because this would give this system that feel, that Sega-like feel. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There's no hiding anything. I'm a big Sega fan myself.
Oh man, who isn't?
And
Well, there obviously are people out there who are, you know, not necessarily Sega, but they damn well should be. I mean, it drives me up the wall.
but this game, Balan Wonderworld, this game would be, Square Enix has worked with other companies, smaller companies before, and even smaller hardware companies before. I wouldn't necessarily call Nvidia a small hardware company,
No.
but their new device that they brought out, which was very early in its beginning, the Nvidia Shield handheld. Does anybody remember that?
Absolutely.
Looked like a game controller that had a screen attached to it, and you would flip it up.
Hmm.
Sega offered a lot of games for that system right off the bat. When Sega, and so did Square Enix. They also offered a few games, I believe, maybe one or two, and then they also did something for the Ouya as well.
Oh yes. Yep.
Um, where we're different than Ouya and these other systems is that it is more focused on it being a gaming only system that runs on a very, very basic Linux kernel. We're not talking about a full operating system where you can do what you want to with it and hack it up. We're just talking about something very simple, very straightforward. All it's there to do is just run the games and make sure everything is you know running well and not having any problems or issues. But the system, the kernel, the Linux kernel, will allow for um, easier game development and deployment on a system like this. So it's not a full operating system. You're gonna see an interface, and that's about it. You don't have enough room to put any programs or save anything. As I said, everything's going to be saved on the controller's memory, internal memory. So there's going to be really no way for anyone to really connect to the console other than through the HDMI, and even that is not directly connected to where you would have the brains of the stuff at. So I could go into talking about hacking, but I don't really want to do that because
Yeah.
everything I'm doing in the design of this system is to design to basically kind of alleviate the desire to hack it, because like I said, you can do a lot of stuff through Steam Link and Steam, and you can play a lot of games that you would want to play on a system like this. I mean, I was highly disappointed with the hacking of the mini consoles.
Yeah.
Even companies I really didn't care for and I'm not on their side, like Sony and Nintendo,
Yeah.
I really didn't want to see their systems get hacked either. And it just, I mean, the most embarrassing one I can remember is the SNK released their home arcade stick that played games, and within like a day or less, it was hacked. It's the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. Thing with the Dreamcast here is Sega essentially left the back door open
Yeah.
on the porch. Now, in America, we have these things called porches,
Yep. Yep.
and you have a back one and a front one sometimes, and there's a back door, and you can leave it open or shut it, and anyone can come in or not. And Sega kind of left that back door open,
Yeah.
and they kind of put a little wedge in the back there, and just and that's kind of what happened with Dreamcast. And to put it in a nutshell, our system is designed to. My system is designed to essentially discourage that kind of thing. Because after it's had its run, I'd say about 5 years um, out there on the market, I see no reason to not turn it over and allow people to get the ability to go after it and hack away. But
Yep.
they gotta be registered. They gotta have, that's the only rule that Monking would like to see, is that if we're gonna open something like that up to a community, you gotta register.
Yeah.
You gotta be accountable for what games you make, and what you gotta be accountable, because if you're not accountable for it, then it can get lost fairly quickly, and people can start saying, "Oh, I did it. No, I did it. No, I did it," and copycats all over the internet. And if somebody registers and says, "Hey, yeah, I'll be, I'll register, and I'll take responsibility for the content that I create," then yeah, no problem with that. But it's got to run its course first.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, with the console being well, in the sense of the years running, so like you said, about 5 years. Do you then see further then development going into a different system, or is this a system that shouldn't necessarily have to have a revision? This is just one you have, and you can keep getting games for it because the games are still being made for it. Is it that sort of console, or is it a console that's going to lead on as, when I say technology changes, again, I don't mean going fully digital or fully stream. I mean, so in other words, thus getting rid of the physical side of it, the physical media side of it. Is it something that's just gonna? Do you see what I'm saying? In regards to the console doesn't need to change in 5 years, because it's been so good in the sense of games are still passionately being made for it, new stories are coming out, etc. Or are you going to? Is the plan to then move on to another revision?
Well, the way I look at it is like this. Right now, and I'd say this week, or was it last week? I think it was this week.
Yeah,
NVIDIA unveiled their new technology and basically blew away the entire market. They just took a cannon to it and just blew it everything away.
yeah,
Um, I tend to believe that companies out there who have technology, especially mobile technology, are going to want to not be left behind in that competition because let's face it, uh, the competition with gaming on PCs these days isn't the console so much as it is mobile.
yeah,
You can have, I mean, for real, you can have graphics and technology in gaming that you would have gotten on an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4
yeah,
on your mobile device.
yeah,
Um, so Nvidia coming out and doing that, they're gonna definitely want to try to upgrade, meet the technology, um, in terms of companies out there who think of this. I'm not gonna lie, the main graphics and technology that goes into this little console here, this little television console, is mobile technology,
yeah,
and it comes from that side. So you're if you need to upgrade, you can. The only issue there would be the upgrading of the kernel, the operating kernel there, the Linux kernel. But that shouldn't be too much of a problem because Linux is very flexible and can
yeah.
handle a bunch of different things. The only thing is that we would probably have you turn in your base system for a new base system because we don't want to open that door to flashing the chip that the system comes on, uh, opening that door to hacking. So, but we would probably do that at a nominal fee, something like 50, $60 or something, and you
Yeah.
can get the new board and pop in the new whatever it is, and away you go. Bob's your uncle.
Okay. I mean, that sounds good. To be fair,
So to
man.
answer the question in a clear way, yeah, you will be able to continue playing the games you love and new games. You don't necessarily have to upgrade, but the newer stuff is going to have things like ray tracing and
Yeah,
just a whole bunch of stuff that's going to come down the line. And eventually you may want to upgrade, but you can keep the old stuff and it'll work just fine. And new games can come out for it. Like I said, after a period of 5 years, I'm looking into opening it up to registered developers out there who want to develop new games for it. So
that sounds good. Yeah. No,
yeah,
I love the sound of that. That is. Yeah. I mean, you just don't really hear that from most. You know, most companies, etc. You just they don't want people to be able to kind of make their own creations, if that makes sense. I mean, like I said, Sega, they don't really seem to care who does what with anything of theirs, but other these bigger companies, these huge big companies, they just they don't want to lose grip. I think's the term. Um, they just seem to want to hold on to everything, don't they? Obviously, it's all very much money driven with them. It's quite blatantly obvious, and that's the reason they don't. Well, obviously piracy being the other, but they don't want to lose grip, do they? And when a console's got its fans and people who just want to keep making these games for it, they just don't allow it. Whereas this, clearly, like you said, once it gets to that point, anyone essentially, as long as they've gone down the right avenues, could then go and create something that everyone would love to see and wouldn't necessarily normally get to see.
right.
You
And
know?
something like, I was watching this video on the new company, Balan Company under Square Enix,
Yeah.
and the person in the video was reading from an article, and this article was explaining that the reason that some of these former Sega employees left Sega and are working with Balan, or like uh, Yuji Naka over there working at, with Balan or
Yeah.
created Balan, is because they wanted to have this creativity. And Sega had become, I'd say, after what had happened on the business side and on the inside of Sega to cause them to have a problem, and hence the removal of hardware from the industry.
Yeah.
Um, they had become very strict in their desire. They had become very money orientated, so they weren't thinking creative. You know, it's easy as a boss to say no to something versus someone who is creative and allowed to do that. Now, look, Square Enix isn't perfect. We all know that. I mean, Final Fantasy had been in development for so long and had gone over budget with just basically they had gone way, let the creators, the creative people been way too creative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I think when you have a good balance between creation and business, you get something like we all grew up on, or at least those of us who are old enough to remember, SNES or SNES,
Yeah.
and Genesis Mega Drive and Master System NES, stuff like that. We've all grown up on these older systems, or have at least one time had saw it at a store or like a sale place and picked it up and played it for 5 minutes. We've all had an experience of what it was like at some point. And that time period, especially for microcomputers like I said, Amiga and Spectrum and things like that, and even PCs and early 90s and mid 90s PCs and stuff, all had this community of gamers and game developers who really, really had a passion for it. And the reason they had a passion for it was because they could actually get their stuff out there and people could see it and they could share it. Versus today, where it's like you said, it's very locked down. It's very a matter of fact. It's very, we own your content. You can't buy it. I mean, if it wasn't for that company, I can't remember the name of the company that sells big box games.
Not limited run.
Uh,
No.
hmm,
There's quite a few, isn't there? There's Special
yeah,
Reserve as well, I think they're called.
yeah, a few like that, where
Yeah.
they're actually putting out real physical media for you to buy. I think that's it's not necessarily the future, but it is absolutely of passion and
Yeah.
of desire and drive. And I think there's not enough of that. And obviously, Yuji Naka and a few former Sonic team members also agree with that. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
if you're a
Yeah.
Sega fan, you know that very well.
Absolutely.
Um, but that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm coming at it from a little bit of the heart and a little bit of it of the brain, and I'm just kind of saying, there should be something out there. I mean, obviously, this product isn't intended to compete against Xbox or Sony or even PCs or even an Nvidia Shield television. A Nintendo Switch is going to have vastly more software. It's going to have vastly more competitive edge than what we have. But what this really is for people who, like I said, they don't have a lot of money. They maybe have 100 pounds or 200 pounds to spend on video gaming the entire year. They don't really have that much to invest into something like that, but they want to play something, and they're tired of connecting their phone to their television, or maybe they're tired of carrying their phone with them everywhere they go and tapping on screens instead of actually having real controls. And buying controls for your phone these days may seem interesting, but they're all kind of gimmicky in their way. So it's nothing really coming from kind of like a fourth gen, fifth gen kind of viewpoint, and that's kind of where I'm kind of putting this out. I realize it's niche, but that's fine. That's the point of the product. It's like I said, it's a Chromecast Roku kind of a gaming device setup that gives you the kind of passion and creativity that you're looking for, but under the budget that you can afford. And there's a lot more people who don't have the money than there are who do.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we're heading to the hour mark here. I can clearly see the passion for this shining through. I mean, all of the listeners right now are going to hear this blatantly, and I think it's going to do well. Like I said, most of these projects, well, not most of them, but some of them, the people who are behind them or the companies behind them, they just don't feel. I don't know, if not genuine's not the word, but I mean, there doesn't feel like a passion. It just feels like another another product to shift, if that makes sense. They're just thinking of the numbers. They're just thinking of the sales. Whereas this, yeah, you can tell it's a passionate project, and I can't wait to see more. I mean, to close the interview, I mean, if you were to give, let's say, 3 bullet points or keywords to get people not that the whole interview isn't going to get people excited, but if you had to give three bullet points or keywords to get people's interest peaking or really growing for this, what would that be?
Affordable,
Yeah, yeah,
traditional, modern gaming, unique.
I like it. I think that, yeah, I was going to say, I think with systems nowadays, it's people are too scared to go unique, aren't they?
Yeah, that's the problem. You got Call of Duty 5000 and
Yeah, and FIFA as well, and it is FIFA in the USA, isn't it? It's known as FIFA, yeah.
it's FIFA.
Yeah, and then obviously you got your NBAs and your Fortnites. Yeah, I mean, nothing goes away from that narrative, and it's good to see that this is coming.
Yeah.
And
it's gonna be not immediate,
No,
but it will be worked on diligently because this is something that can be a little more easily put out than the other system I was working on, which, by the way, is not gone.
okay.
It is continuing,
Oh,
but it is continuing in the background while this particular product is being forged for the people out there. So,
interesting.
for people who are worried that that project has been got gone, is no longer around, do not fret. It is still there. The passion is still there. It's just right now, during this time, the best thing to do is work on something that can showcase what I'm about, what we're about, what Monk King is about, and can show you why you will want to choose to not only work with us for developers, but also play with us for gamers.
Nice. Man, if that ain't a tagline, I don't know what is. I love it. So where can the listeners follow you to, and obviously keep up with all the events? Obviously here on Games Re-Up, but where else can they get all their info?
Currently, at the moment, as we are building the social media and everything like that, at the moment you can find us on Parler. That's parler.com /Monking Games, MONKINGGAMES. Now, if you can't find that and you can't go to that specific link, just search for the Monking Games part, and you'll be able to find it. That's Parler, PARLER.com. It's a free speech platform. Don't let the majority of the most highly advertised people on that site fool you, people out there. It's a free speech platform, so not everybody has had a chance to get there yet, but it's a good platform, and we decided to go there versus Twitter because we don't like the company doesn't like the toxicity on Twitter and Facebook and all those pages these days. So we wanted some place to start fresh, and that's a fresh start for us. So Parler, and then eventually when we're ready and we have the prototype ready and everything, we'll be on Indiegogo under the same company name, Monk King, on Indiegogo.
Fantastic. I was going to say, obviously, I'd love to do another interview with you as the project goes on. Obviously, the more we know, and the more just everything seems to, as it goes on. Obviously, I want to cover it. I'm sure you know that. Yeah, I'd love to obviously do another interview with you as more comes along, more information,
Absolutely.
and everything. Fantastic. It's been absolutely great to talk to you today, TJ. I must say, because obviously we let's face it, we've been speaking now for how many years? We're talking a few years, aren't we?
On and off for
Yeah.
Cumulatively probably 3.5 to 4 years.
Yeah. And now we're actually speaking properly. We're via audio.
And that's something awesome. I really
Yeah.
like to keep up with my friends, even though we're half a world away. So.
And obviously all our lives are moving on, but we can always go back.
You can now support the channel on patreon.com/GamesRip, as well as remember to like, comment, and subscribe.